I'm Emiliano from qualityclassroom.com, and today I'm going to teach you how to test a form. In this particular video, we're going to pay attention to all the cases that we have to think of when approaching a form. And also, we will try to find out where are the main scenarios when bugs can be triggered. So, let's get right to it. Okay, this is the site that we're going to test today. It's a testing site created by the company Gatling, and it's just a computer database. We're not going to pay much attention into this screen because we're going to focus on the Add a New Computer section. So let's click on it. As we can see, this form has 3 input fields and a dropdown, plus a create and cancel button. The first field says computer name, so we can assume that it expects a string or a word, basically. It says that it's required. Then we have 2 introduced and discontinued fields. Then if we take a look at the hint here, it says date with a year, month, day format. And finally, a company dropdown. The first test that we have to try as testers is what we call happy path. It's the main basic scenario. So in this case, we have to enter a computer name. Let's call it PC number one, with a date with this format. So let's try 2020 0201, year, month, day. A discontinued date that happened afterwards. Let's call it 2021 0315, and some company, whatever. Let's click on the save button and see what happens. Perfect. This snack bar is telling us that the computer got saved properly. I'm not gonna search for it here because that's gonna be the purpose of another video. So let's go back to the form. Perfect. It says that computer name, it's a required field. Another test that we can try is this field really required? What happens if we try to save, leaving this field empty? So let's click on create this computer. Perfect. We can assure that this field is really required. The application is not allowing us to save with an empty computer name. Another test that we can do here is what happens if we enter a special character. So let's put numbers, let's put some weird letters and symbols, and let's see what happens with this. The application also allows us to enter any kind of character. So far so good. If we pay attention to the screen, at no point it says that there's a limitation of characters, but we know that there has to be a limitation, either in the front end or either in the database or the backend. So let's act like proper testers and let's try to break this. So let's enter a bunch of characters. Let's copy this. Let's paste it a couple of times. Let's copy it again. Let's copy it again. Let's paste it a couple of more times. If you want to be a bit more savvy, if you press the F12 key, we can see the console and we can see what's going on here. So let's paste this a couple of times. We found the bug. This is called spillover. To see the whole name of the computer, we have to scroll to the right, and we can see that the name of the computer is spilling out of, let's say, the snack bar. Let's go back to the form. And now let's try to surpass the maximum amount of characters. So we copy that. Let's paste it a few times. Let's copy all this chunk again. Let's paste it again. And let's see now. Perfect. We destroyed the application. 502 bad gateway. It doesn't matter what this means, but we can tell that we just broke the application, so we found another bug. We pretty much tested the first field. Let's jump into the second one. This field expects a date in the format year, month, day, the same as this field. So let's see what happens if instead of entering year, month, day separated by hyphens, we separate it with slashes. So 2020 slash 12 12 12 12. Let's enter a name. Perfect. This field is working correctly because it's telling us that this is not the expected format. We assume that both fields behave in the same fashion, so let's try a different test on the discontinued one. What happens if instead of entering year, month, day, we enter day, month, year, for example. 01-01-2021. Let's enter our computer name. Same thing. Clearly it doesn't allow us to enter the date in the format that we want. So another cool test that we can do when we have a date field is to try to enter a bogus date, a date that doesn't exist. For example, 2021, February 30, computer name. Let's see what happens if we enter a date that doesn't exist. Perfect. It's telling us invalid date. February 30th is not a valid date. Now, we can see what happens if we enter a discontinued date that happened before the introduced one. 2021, January 31st. Perfect. It's telling us discontinued date is before introduction date, which is perfect. The application shouldn't allow us to enter a discontinued date that happens before the introduced one. And what happens if we introduce the same date? So let's see, test 2021, February the 1st, create this computer. Aha, we have the same error. This is a bug because clearly the discontinued date doesn't happen before the introduced one. And jumping a little bit ahead and testing the company dropdown, there's not much we can do here because we cannot enter data, we cannot input, we only can choose fields, we only can choose values. But let's take a look at, especially at this one, microinstrumentation and telemetry systems. When we select it, we realize that the dropdown is cutting the sentence. So this is also a bug because we cannot read properly what is stated in here. And last but not least, we should test what happens with the cancel button. We know that the create button is working correctly because every time that we click on it, it either saves or at least tries to save what we enter in those fields, but we haven't tried what happens when we click on cancel. Perfect, it's clearing the form and sending us to the home screen. So we can assume that the cancel button is working correctly. That's great. These were the basics on how to test the form. For more tutorials about testing and quality assurance, please visit qualityclassroom.com. And don't forget to subscribe.